One of the most common lies that mankind has grown up with since childhood is this theory of the Earth's sphericity, a new concept that began to flourish in the late 6th century, along with Greek philosophy. This theory remains a trivial assumption until the 3rd century BC, when Greek astronomy establishes forever that the Earth is spherical. This paradigm will slowly begin to have thousands of followers, becoming a great scientific truth between 1519 to 1521 due to Magellan's expedition. Because of this brazen invention that millions of people truly believe in, the ancient scientific concept in which the Earth is flat has been replaced by the lie of its sphericity. Being taught as children with doctrines that preach only the truth of the elite, millions of people today believe that on this spherical ball, slightly flattened at the poles, people in the northern hemisphere walk normally, those in the southern hemisphere go upside down, and those at the equator go perpendicular to the Earth, just as I believe that water, undefeated by anyone, can be held by an unseen force called gravity on this ball. On the other hand, it is normal not to believe in an ancient concept since it is repeated to you endlessly that in antiquity man was primitive, omitting to add that due to the great universal flood that swallowed almost everything and changed the structure and geography to the Earth, man was left with nothing. Man was not a primitive because he was a beast, but because the survivors had to start from scratch on a land ravaged by the fury of the waters. In the beginning man was so evolved that no one will ever be able to match him in these times unless he really wants to see reality and change following the thread of what he is inside. There is no evolution but a human evolution, due to the petty way in which the human mind has been manipulated by millennia of obscure forces. I'm not going to say a word about what school teaches us about spherical Earth because it's useless to start talking about what everyone has learned or is learning about this subject, but I'm wondering desperately how you might think the Earth is spinning at 1,700 kilometers h, without feeling this? How is it possible to walk a ball upside down or upside down without any dizziness or headaches? How come no one cares about the curvature of the Earth when making projects on large land surfaces? Why do we hypocritically deny that the horizon is not as straight as a palm, even though we see it every day? Why are all the flights through the north of the Earth? Why has no one ever left India for America across the Pacific Ocean? Why do all the maps of the world show us the continents that have the Atlantic in their midst? Why is the moon visible on the opposite side of the sun in broad daylight? How can we believe that an airplane lands on a surface that moves at 1,700 kilometers h without making any noise? But more than that, why do we swallow all this science garbage that the elite puts on us, making us stubbornly deny the truth before our eyes? How is it possible that in the southern hemisphere people walk this ball upside down all their lives? Or how those at the equator are in such an awkward position that even the most skillful and insightful gymnast would not be able to copy it. Besides the fact that this way of staying on Earth is impossible because it defies any common sense law or logic. These people do not feel anything. Their blood does not come to their heads. They walk the streets normally. Nothing is scattered in the air. And objects also fall to the ground, not to the air. Moreover, they all spin with the Earth at a hallucinatory speed. Because all the scientists have proven that this speed is 1,700 kilometers. A thinking man would reject this monstrosity without the need for other arguments. But as these people are extremely few today, the elite invent unprecedented cretinism because no one will notice that the big lie is supported by other lies. Gigantic. Gravity is the theory of the Mason's man, Isaac Newton, who fails to prove much with this concept, which in reality refers to the density of objects, because things do not fall to the ground due to gravity, but due to the higher density they have in relation to air. Prior to this theory of spherical Earth, for thousands of human generations the Earth was flat, as described by Mesopotamian mythology, where it was drawn as a disk swimming in the sea, encircled at the top by a transparent dome that divided the waters above from those below. The wise men of Egypt also knew about the flat earth, which in all the drawings, bas-reliefs or paintings they made for posterity show the true face of the earth. The cartographers of antiquity knew what the earth looked like, but they also knew what was outside it. All the maps inherited from them, but hidden or destroyed by the unseen hands of these murderers of earthly life, showed us another world. The elite do not talk about the flat earth, because then man would see the world in which he lives with different eyes. No one is interested in waking man from his millennial sleep. Masons are obliged to tell the truth, only they do it with the help of symbols, images, messages scattered everywhere. In movies, cartoons, the internet, books of the enlightened, coats of arms of companies, institutions up to the UN coat of arms. And if I don't know, what does the earth look like? Today, all information in astronomy is the exclusive monopoly of space agencies, which, although contradicting each other, follow an identical program. Any image, evidence, event, information, exploration, scientific hypothesis about the Earth and what surrounds it, is born and legitimizes itself in these agencies where only falsehoods and thousands of lies come out. The images we have at our disposal with the spherical model of the Earth are counterfeit, faked, falsified. It is not difficult to fool 8 billion people when you rule the world. You have everything at your disposal, but above all, no one can check you, control you or contradict you, because you are the supreme authority, you are the astronomer god. The horizon appears perfectly flat around the observer, 360 degrees, regardless of the altitude at which it is located. All movies made by drones or airplanes prove that the horizon is perfectly flat. Only NASA or other government space agencies show a curvature of it in their fake movies or photos. No matter how high you are above the Earth, the horizon is always at eye level for those who observe it, while if the Earth were round, the horizon would remain below and then you should tilt to see it. The images from NASA are all fake, treated in CGI or made with deforming fisheye lenses. The idea that people are standing, that ships are floating and that planes are flying upside down in certain parts of the Earth, or that others are leaning at a perfect angle of 90 degrees or other different inclinations is a boundless nonsense. The idea that a man instead of making a hole in the ground does it in heaven is downright grotesque. The idea that there is an up and down has a meaning in nature for any thinker, apart from the everything is relative rhetoric of the Newton, Einstein paradigms. The rivers flow to sea level in any direction of the earth, north, east, west, south. If a river from its source to its discharge into the sea is 2,400 kilometers long, it must rise 5 kilometers on spherical Earth. If the Earth were spherical as NASA and modern astronomy claim, then spherical trigonometry says that all water surfaces should be curved down to 8 inches, 2.54 centimeters, per mile, 1.8 kilometers, multiplied by the square of the distance. This means that for a 6-mile water channel, the land should be left 6 feet, 30.48 by 6 equals 180.288 meters, from the center point. Every time this experiment was done, the waters were always at the same level. No engineer, architect or designer has taken into account in any project the curvature of the Earth, although navigation canals, tunnels, bridges, railway lines, highways that stretch for hundreds of km are perfectly horizontal, not curved. On spherical Earth, the North Star directly above the North Pole cannot be seen anywhere in the southern hemisphere of the Earth. In order to be seen from the southern hemisphere, the observer should look through the ground, and it should be transparent. Despite this, the North Star can be seen in the southern hemisphere of the Earth up to a latitude of 20 degrees south, because only on a flat Earth this is possible. The London Northwestern Railway forms a perfectly straight line 180 miles from London to Liverpool. Its highest point in the middle of the distance at Birmingham Station is only 240 feet. If the ground were round, it would have a curvature of 8 inches per square thousand. In this case, the 180 miles would have formed a circular arc with a central point in Birmingham. 1 mile high, more than 5,400 feet between London and Liverpool. Although it should look like a circular arc, it looks like this. If the Earth were really a 25,000-mile ball, aircraft pilots would always have to correct their altitude at the bottom so as not to fly straight into etheric space. A pilot who would like to maintain his altitude at the typical cruising speed of 500 miles per hour, would have to constantly descend with the muzzle of the plane to lower himself by 2,777 feet per minute. If he did not make this maneuver, in an hour his pilot and aircraft would be 31.5 miles higher than his flight path. This is not done by any pilot of this planet because the curvature of the Earth as explained to us by the elite does not exist. If the Earth was constantly rotating 1,000 miles to the east, a cannon projectile or any other type of projectile fired in a vertical line would have to move significantly to the west. In reality, however, in any of the above situations, when this was experienced, the projectiles fired at an average speed of 14 seconds in ascent and 14 in descent, returned to the ground no more than 2 feet from the cannon, or most often right in the mouth of the cannon barrel. If the Earth were indeed a sphere rotating east at 1,000 miles per hour, helicopters and airships would be able to gravitate above the ground, waiting suspended in the air until their destination reached below them. Adherents of the round Earth theory often claim that gravity magically and inexplicably transports the entire lower atmosphere of the Earth in perfect sync to a certain altitude. At a certain distance, this atmosphere progressively leaves the place of the infinite space gap, which is non-rotating, non-gravitational and non-atmospheric. But these theories are disproved by rain, fireworks, birds, insects, clouds, smoke, airplanes, and projectiles that would behave differently if the whole Earth and its atmosphere rotated in counterclockwise constantly at 1,000 miles per hour. If the gravitational force were strong enough to hold the oceans, buildings, people, and the atmosphere so fast to the spinning Earth, then it would be impossible for the same gravitational force to be so weak as to allow birds, insects, planes taking off, to fly freely in any direction. If the gravitational force were such a strong force that it could bend the expanse of ocean water around land, it would be impossible for fish and all sea creatures to swim in this water set by such a force. The Statue of Liberty in New York rises 326 feet below sea level. And on a clear day it is visible from a distance of 60 miles. If the Earth were round, then Lady Liberty would be submerged with 2,074 feet below the horizon. From Genoa, in Italy, at an altitude of 70 feet below sea level, it is possible to see the island of Capraia, 102 miles away. If the ground were round, Capraia would have to be hidden with 5,605 feet under the alleged curvature. The surface of all stagnant water, such as lakes, seas and oceans, is flat, and all canals, tunnels and railways are built without regard to the supposed convexity or curvature of the Earth. The light from harbor headlights can be seen at such great distances that they should not be visible if the Earth were spheroidal due to the curvature of the Earth. The pilots of the planes do not constantly tilt the muzzle of the plane to follow the supposed curvature of the spheroidal Earth in order to maintain the desired altitude. The Earth is infinite. Above the Earth are the atmospheric layers that together form the Earth's atmosphere. Above the Earth's atmosphere is the gaseous atmosphere of outer space. An interesting and astonishing feature of the infinite Earth is that no matter which direction you look, even if you look at the sky, you look in the direction of the Earth, and if you look above the horizon you could see the Earth if you removed the Earth's gaseous atmosphere. Outer space. If we remove the relief formed by mountains, hills and valleys and the complex crust of the Earth has no curvature and no convexity and is perfectly flat. The sun, the moon, and the stars revolve around a motionless Earth, just the way we perceive it. The North Pole is the Earth's magnetic center. The Sun moves above the Earth in a spiral trajectory on the surface of a cone trunk with a large base above the Tropic of Capricorn and the upper base above the Tropic of Cancer. As it ascends the trunk of the cone, the speed of the Sun becomes slower and slower, and as it descends its speed becomes ever greater. Horizontal circular motion produces the day-night cycle, while vertical upward and downward motion produces the seasons. The official paradigm states that solar eclipses are due to the passage of the moon in front of the sun, and lunar eclipses would be the result of the alignment of the sun, Earth and moon in a single line, and the Earth would be in the middle and obscure the moon. Ancient astronomers, as well as recent astronomical observations, tell us something completely different, namely that eclipses are due to the occultation of the Sun and Moon by unenlightened celestial bodies. Scientists, in this case NASA, are proud that they can predict eclipses, and people believe that this prediction is based on the parameters of the globular model, which leads to the conclusion that the globular model is correct. The truth is that scientists use ancient models to calculate eclipses and that in these models there are no specific parameters of the globular model. Consequently, the prediction of eclipses has nothing to do with the globular model and is therefore not proof that the globular model is correct. The Sun and the Moon are the same size and have synchronicities between them. The globular theory assumes that the Sun is at a distance of 149,600,000 kilometers. A sun at a very great distance of about 149,600,000 kilometers cannot illuminate an entire spherical half of a spherical object such as the Moon. The solar rays projected on the Moon would in this case be parallel rays because the Sun would be at a very great distance. These rays would illuminate only one spot in the center of the Moon, because the other rays falling on the spherical surface of the Moon would be reflected down and up so that they could not be seen by an observer on Earth. The international astronomical community and space agencies around the world are controlled by Freemasons. NASA's space agency is the headquarters of the world's space agencies. The term Godmother means cheating in style in Hebrew. On the emblem of the space agency are stars and a snake's tongue. The translation of the symbolism of this emblem is as follows: to fool people in a big way about the universe or to fool people in a big way about astronomy. The man was not on the Moon. Landing and amortization were pranks staged on Earth by Freemasons. The supposed artificial satellites placed in Earth orbit and the supposed space stations do not exist. All the movies and images of the NASA space agency in which they appear, the Hubble Space Telescope, the ISS space station, planets, etc. are actually computer-generated images. Some images of astronauts floating in a non-gravitational space are created using cables to which the astronauts are attached. Others are made in planes called zero-G flying on a parabolic curve, and still others in a large pool with water from Texas, called the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, which simulates non-gravity. If the Earth were a spheroid, it would have to be objects from the ground, water, and air at great distances, such as buildings, ship masts, hot air balloons in the air, and so on, to appear inclined. This has never been noticed, which means that the Earth is flat. The fastest passenger planes in human history were the Concorde and Tupolev Tu-144. Concorde reached 2.2 Mach, 2.2 times faster than the speed of sound, and Tupolev Tu-144 reached 2.0 Mach. These passenger planes have been taken out of service and no commercial passenger aircraft today, 2017, can reach the speed of sound. The official paradigm of global astronomers says that the Earth rotates with its atmosphere from west to east, so that a point on the Earth's surface at the equator would have an average speed of 1,675 kilometers h, sound speed equals 1,224 kilometers h. As we observe, according to this theory, which in brackets has never been proven, the Earth would rotate from west to east at a speed faster than sound. If this were not the case, no commercial passenger aircraft in this world would be able to fly from west to east, because flying east means flying in the direction of the Earth's rotation, and if you fly at a speed slower than the Earth's speed, you will not be able to fly. Never advance. However, commercial passenger planes fly east at a slower speed than the speed of sound and reach their destination. The rotation of the Earth exists only in the crazy imagination of global astronomers. The Earth is infinite. Above the Earth are the atmospheric layers that together form the Earth's atmosphere. Above the Earth's atmosphere is the gaseous atmosphere of outer space. An interesting and astonishing feature of the infinite Earth is that no matter which direction you look, even if you look at the sky, you look in the direction of the Earth, and if you look above the horizon you could see the Earth if you removed the Earth's gaseous atmosphere. Outer space. Whoever thinks that the Earth is a spheroid floating in outer space has no hope of being freed from slavery, because he has nowhere to go. When people understand that the Earth is flat, motionless, and infinite, they will be able to create super-performing vehicles with which to go to other lands near our Earth and thus become free. Our flat Earth is about 10 times larger than spheroidal Earth. Whoever does not understand this will agree with the propaganda of the masters of the world, which says that our land is overpopulated and must be depopulated by wars and disease. The Earth is flat, motionless, and infinite. Moon landing, the big lie of the 20th century. Man has never been to the moon. Landing and amortization were pranks staged on Earth by Freemasons. The supposed artificial satellites placed in Earth orbit and the supposed space stations do not exist. All the movies and images of the NASA space agency in which they appear, the Hubble Space Telescope, the ISS space station, planets, etc., are actually computer-generated images. Some images of astronauts floating in a non-gravitational space are created using cables to which astronauts are attached. Others are made in planes called zero-G flying on a parabolic curve, and still others in a large pool. With water from Texas, called the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, which simulates non-gravity. Here is some evidence that grounding was not possible and is a big hoax. Lights, shadows and lack of stars. Perhaps the most important argument of those who dispute the existence of the Apollo 11 mission is the lack of stars in the images provided by NASA. The space appears in the photos as a huge black background. How could this be possible, especially since the moon does not have an atmosphere that obscures the visibility of the stars? It's hard to believe that a possible director would have forgotten to light up the stars in the studio. The protesters claim that the position of the stars seen from Earth would have betrayed the real position of the astronauts, in which case it was decided to remove them from the background. NASA officials have vehemently denied this possibility and have claimed that sunlight, which is extremely strong on the Earth's surface, is capable of obscuring any image of the stars. The same thing happens, say American scientists, when you try to photograph the sky at night, in a brightly lit city. The only way for the stars to become visible would be for an astronaut to take pictures of the dark side of the moon. NASA's explanation seems, at first glance, to be able to explain the lack of stars in official photos. However, no camera would withstand the heat of the sun and the strong radiation hitting the surface of the moon. Why didn't this happen? Both Apollo 11 and the other missions that took place until 1972 were carried out in the early hours of the lunar morning, argue American researchers. Although viewed with skepticism, this explanation by scientists has given rise to new controversies. How was it possible for the shadow of the space shuttle to propagate during the flight over an extremely large surface of the moon? Moreover, if the brightness of the sun was so strong that it prevented the stars from being seen in the early hours of the morning, how is it that astronauts' shadows have different shapes, lengths, and directions? And for the mystery to deepen, how can it be explained that, although overshadowed, the selenium module clearly shows the official insignia of the United States of America? According to the researchers, the rugged terrain can give rise to a play of light and shadow even when it comes to several objects or people standing close to each other, an explanation that has not yet succeeded in convincing many of its veracity. The sea stone in the American flag. One of the images that managed to shock the audience was that of the rock on which the letter C appears, as if it were part of a predetermined setting. Such markings are common in Hollywood studios, where props are marked with letters, from A to Z, and not with numbers as one would expect. What was NASA's reaction to this evidence? The letter C on the rock in question is just an optical illusion. Most likely, a tiny hair created the image of the letter. And yet, the positioning of the letter on the surface of the rock as well as the fact that no other photograph shows such anomalies has created waves of skepticism among the information-hungry public. As if the evidence of the protesters was not already in large numbers, another image, this time from the film made on the spot by American astronauts, shows the flag of the United States of America waving at the moment of its hoisting on the surface of the moon. As the moon does not have an atmosphere, the flag should, at most, have stood still on the special support created to keep it stretched. The motivation of the scientists, by which the movement of the flag would have been impregnated by the astronauts, seems, in the opinion of the skeptics, only an unfounded justification. Invisible wires and slow-motion movements of astronauts. There are still rumors that the astronauts were aided by extremely thin wires in the movements on the supposed surface of the Moon. To recreate the effect of lunar gravity and to give the impression that astronauts are floating in the air. NASA is said to have made the film with slow motion. The skeptics went so far as to make a similar film in these conditions, the similarities between it and those made by astronauts being striking. The explanation of NASA officials was not, even this time, able to please everyone. Scientists have urged skeptics to pay attention to the lunar dust and how it immediately returns to the ground following the movement of members of the expedition. Normally, on Earth, the researchers argue, the dust would have risen and spread through the atmosphere. Restoring the conditions on the Moon would require an extremely high effort, even by current standards. Nobody mentioned, however, that it is impossible. Why is there no evidence? The arguments of those who do not believe that the first landing would take place in 1969 can easily fill the pages of several volumes. The lack, in 1969, of a technology capable of ensuring a voyage to the Moon for a human crew, the absence of concrete evidence, the fragility of the module and the images, the lack of discussion of the Van Allen belt and its deadly radiation, the mysterious disappearance of some involved in the Apollo 11 project as well as some original information, but also NASA's refusal to provide images of the first place where it landed a human crew are just extra reasons to maintain suspicions. A final argument is related to the European Space Agency's ESA space mission on September 3, 2006. Although the European module, Smart 1, crashed on the Moon's surface, it was able to provide photos of the first landing. However, ESA refused to release any images obtained during the mission. Suffice it to say that the 1969 landing was nothing more than a hoax. Maybe we'll never find out. What is certain is that both those who believe and those who do not believe in the truthfulness of the information provided by NASA are still waiting for concrete proof of the mission that would have taken place in 1969. The Earth is neither bounded nor spherical. The Earth is flat, motionless, and infinite. On the flat, real and infinite Earth there are a very large number of territories similar to our Earth. There is a magnetic center in the middle of the territory. A luminous celestial object, which we call the Sun, revolves above the territory and around the magnetic center. At least two such territories are right next to us. Because the Earth is not a sphere, the South Pole does not exist, and Antarctica is a giant wall of ice with an average height of about 45 meters that lies on the entire outer circumference of our Earth. Beyond Antarctica are new lands. Lately, more and more documents are appearing, such as photos and videos taken in China and North America, in which two suns appear instead of one. One of them is our sun, while the other is the sun that belongs to the neighboring Earth. It is not about the optical illusion in which three lights appear, one in the middle which is the sun and two sides which by being halves of the sun. This is an optical phenomenon. The two suns that appeared in China and North America are two distinct and real suns. The world's authorities are well aware that the Earth is flat. You can see this by looking at their flags, emblems and logos on which the Earth is represented flat. Knowing that the Earth is flat, the authorities have always suspected that beyond the high ice walls of Antarctica are new territories. Antarctica does not exist on these flags, emblems and logos. The United Nations flag is divided into 33 regions. 33 is the highest degree of Freemasonry that can be granted only to Masonic masters in the Masonic group Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. The United Nations is in fact the headquarters of the world occult. This site was built on land donated by 33rd degree Freemason John Davison Rockefeller Jr., January 29, 1874, May 11, 1960. 33rd degree Masonic masters are considered enlightened and become members of the Enlightenment group. Numerous expeditions were organized to reach the southern polar region, set foot on Antarctica, and build colonies on this continent. Between 1946 to 1947 it was held under U.S. patronage. Operation High Jump, OP-HJP, which resulted in the largest expedition to Antarctica. This operation began in August 1946, was organized by Admiral Richard E. Byrd, and was co-financed by the Rockefeller House. An army of 5,000 men, 13 ships and 26 aircraft took part in the operation. On his return home, Admiral Richard E. Byrd gave televised interviews in which he revealed that beyond the South Pole was a larger continent than North America. Because he said more than he should, he was hospitalized and killed at the behest of his older Masonic brothers. Antarctic activity is governed by the Antarctic Treaty and about 200 additional agreements signed by several countries around the world. The articles of the Antarctic Treaty have excellent strategic objectives, such as that Antarctica should always be used for peaceful purposes and for the benefit of all mankind. From a very wide historical experience, everyone knows that everything that the authorities formulate in writing, treaties or laws, is dust in the eyes of the people. There are many indications that exploring Antarctica is severely limited by the need for a permanent Antarctic military personnel. 15 uncertified news from independent and competent sources says that soft tourism is banned in Antarctica, that private and unauthorized flights over Antarctica are banned, and that independent researchers trying to explore Antarctica, such as the Norwegian Jarle Andhøy, B. October 23, 1977, and his crew were allegedly threatened with violence, arrested or even killed. According to these indications, the authorities are preparing a siege of humanity by placing military bases on the circular territory surrounding our planet called Antarctica, to prevent in the near future a mass emigration of people to new territories beyond Antarctica. The worst situation for the authorities is when the enslaved people leave the territory they control and emigrate to new territories because, in this case, the people who call themselves authorities will have to work themselves in order to what could be a disastrous situation for them could be maintained given that they had never worked. The world's super-rich have already built their homes, new homes are under construction, on the new territories beyond Antarctica. They travel to these territories by means of missiles, airplanes and land transport. The RSRM equals reusable solid rocket motor and solid rocket boosters, with onboard crews built by NASA consist of an orbital, which is actually an airplane, and tubes that contain solid fuel. These missiles are reusable. They are launched and rise to a very high altitude. The fuel pipes are disconnected and the so-called orbital, which is actually an airplane, flies with its own engines to the new territories. This can be seen from the fact that these rockets do not rise directly upwards to exit the Earth's atmosphere, but at some point bend downwards. Scientific authorities say the rockets are turning to follow the curvature of the Earth. The curvature of the Earth does not exist because the Earth is flat. The missiles turn to print the plane's direction to the new territories. Sometimes the world's super-rich want to move to new territories in Antarctica. Among other purposes, Antarctic bases serve as intermediate stations for transportation to new territories. The lords of the world reside in territories beyond Antarctica where there is excellent quality air, water and land. They don't care what happens here on our Earth. The world's super-rich use our planet as a surface and deep mine, from which they extract the raw materials they need with the help of humans and robots, and as a place of production. People are their slaves.